Alrighty, get rolling here. It's about 11 o'clock. It's exactly 11 o'clock. So let's get into it. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. Hope you're having a great weekend. And we will get into the live stream as always. If you have any questions, go ahead and feel free to post them in the live chat. For anybody that's a patron, we are also going to be hanging out in the Patreon chat area. So let's check a look at that. That is going to be right there. Yeah, there we go. So if you're a patron and have any questions or whatnot, you can throw those into the office hours thing. I have one here. We'll take a look at this iNav log. It's actually from a little bit ago. I wasn't doing a live stream on the 20th. So I'll go check that out. And like I said, if you have any questions, if you have any specific questions that are allowed to type or whatnot, let me know. Again, if you're a patron, we can jump into the UAV Tech office hours live chat area and we can address that question. Otherwise, hey, drone pilot, that is your log there. If you still want, I can take a look at that. I just noticed that now there from the 20th. I apologize for that. So, but we can take a look at that iNav log if that's still something you're looking for. Otherwise, I have another one I can take a look at here for somebody else. And just, of course, answer questions in the chat. If you're obviously in the chat, it's pretty straightforward. You can see the chat box there. Just go ahead and drop your question. No, not that one. I have a better one. Great. Go ahead and either, you can just upload it to this office hours area there, drone pilot, and we'll take a look at that right here and now. While you might be gathering that, everybody else, again, throw your questions in the chat box there, and we'll address those as we go. If you can, if I'm not getting to it, do tag my name on it. That's helpful sometimes. With a live chat, it's a little you get your brains all over the place looking at stuff. So, but in the meantime, we're going to take a look at the log for this quadcopter, actually octocopter. So, it's a 3-inch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blade octo, 3-inch diameter. Looks like 3200. I guess that must be the KV, or 3800 KV. I don't know what size motors those are, but DJI on there. Yeah, so let's take a look at that. Pull that up here. So this is the big baby, as it's lovingly referred to. Let's throw that up here. Pull that up a while. Get that shrank down. And take a quick look here. So Brandon has a quick question before we dive deep into this one. Hello, what is your favorite motor, ESC, flight controller, and frame? The quad of your dreams. So Martin asks, what's the motor, ESC, and flight controller quad of my dreams? I don't know if I have a quad of my dreams necessarily. That's not what I meant to do. The flight controller I'm liking recently, I'm going to do a review on this. Anything that I've talked about before, I've done some flight tests. Obviously, for a flight controller, there's lots of options out there. I would go generally F7 if you can, just because of the UART thing and not have to deal with inversion. I don't know if it's that important anymore. F4 has plenty of power though, so it's not so much the speed or the power between the 4 and 7, it's just the other features. There's more UARTs with an F7, you don't have inversion issues. If it's a choice, I would go with an MPU 6000. I don't know that it's a make or break. It's a discontinued, but I have not seen a gyro chip that outperforms the MPU 6000. I've done quite a bit of testing, so if you haven't seen that, just type in UAV Tech in Google, MPU 6000 versus IMC, or MPU versus IMC. And I did a bunch of testing side by side, same quad, 2 flight controllers. So it was a pretty good controlled test, I think. And the MPU 6000 performed a little bit better than the ICM gyros. Not night and day, but just a little bit. It seems a little bit more rugged to noise performance, or electrical noise that you might have. So an F7, if you can go MPU 6000, that's good. This is the SpeedyBee. So this is a new flight controller I just received. It's a SpeedyBee V2. And this comes with, you can get a pack. The pack is sold out in a lot of places, but you can get the flight controller and the ESC combo. And it looks like this flight controller is conformal coated. I don't know if you can see it's very glossy. Or this is the, I'm sorry, the ESC. It looks like it's conformal coated. The flight controller does not. So I don't know if you can tell the difference. You can see the difference between them. You can see how this one's kind of shiny. So it looks like they conformal coated that. That's nice. I'm sure it's a BL Heli 32, so that's that. So let's look at this flight controller here real quick, of why I think it's pretty good. So let me stay quads. Let's drag this over here. And I posted this on my my Discord a little bit ago. V2, there we go. And let's pull this up. So it's this flight controller. So, what do I like about this? So as I talked about before, it has the MPU 6000. It's an F7. Has a USB-C, USB. So that's, it's a little nice if you have those. They're a little bit more sturdy. It has a barometer on it. That's nice. It has OSD chip. So that's pretty good if you're running analog. It also has a DJI plug as well. So it has a slot specifically for the DJI plug-in. So you can kind of go either way. 16 mega flash, so that's sufficient. I wouldn't, it's not above and beyond. 32 meg would be, that would be kind of above and beyond. So that's kind of nice. 3 to 6S, that's good. Has a 9-volt output. So that's nice. If you want a little extra filtering on your VTX, you can use the 9-volt output on it. So it's just really checking a lot of boxes. And it doesn't have 8 motor outputs, it just has 4. So it's not going to be for an octocopter or a hexacopter. So that would be one thing. Has a buzzer relay. You can just see that, there's a lot of features on this board. Let alone, and it looks like there's an EMU and Betaflight. Of course, there's a Betaflight target, but yeah, it looks like there's an EMU flight target as well. So I think you got to be cautious with some flight controllers. I don't believe every flight controller has an EMU flight target if you're into EMU flight. I think that will change in EMU flight 1.0 because I know they're rebasing it on Betaflight 4.3. So then they would get the unified targets. So it would be easy after that point to always keep up to date with the latest targets because they would just, as they would come into Betaflight, they could just literally copy that file over for EMU flight support. So that should be a lot easier. In addition to all that, you can connect to this wirelessly with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. It has a Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connector here. In the newest SpeedyBee app, you can also pull up the black box log right off of this. So you can connect to it with SpeedyBee on Bluetooth, then click black box, and it will connect to it wirelessly with your wireless, connector on your phone. I'm sure for the added speed is what it needs there. And then you can look at the black box log. It's kind of icing on the cake to me. Are you going to be doing that a lot? Maybe not. I don't know if you're going to be looking at it all that much. The phone app's pretty good. It's not as, obviously working on your phone is not as nice as working on a desktop, but you can see some stuff if you wanted to check it out. And again, it's just icing on the cake. All the other specs on this, like I said, MPU 6000, F7, all these other things, just to me, this really has it all. It I don't know if it has a vector OSD. I think this is just a normal OSD chip, Betaflight OSD chip. I would think if this had a vector OSD chip, man, that would be everything. But so check out the SpeedyBee flight controller if you're looking. That's one of that's something recently came out. And actually, if you are looking at that, I actually have, where did I drop that? I don't even know where I dropped that. I have some affiliate links to that. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know if it's that important. But if you ever want to check it out, check out the SpeedyBee. If you do want to support the channel, just go to my UAV Tech. I don't have the affiliate links handy for it. But if you do want to support the channel anytime, obviously you can just go to UAV Tech, theuavtech.com, click on one of these, and then go purchase it if you really wanted to support it that way. You can get this pretty much everywhere. It looks like Get FPV, Race Day Quads. I also get a lot of stuff from Progressive RC. They have it as well. I think Pyrodrone has it, so it seems like it's out there too. Like it's out at a lot of reselling venues. So that's also a big factor, is can you actually get the board? So that I would say is going to be my new fave. For ESC and frame, I guess ESC, Acon, ESCs are good. I don't necessarily have, I think T-Motor ESCs are good. Just keep your ear to the rail. I would not. I was just looking at something. Don't get a KISS ESC. Not that you would, but they're problematic. Obviously, you want to stay away from like SpeedyBee, or not SpeedyBee, Racer Star ESCs. You don't want any of those. I would just go with a name brand ESC 32-bit if you can, and I think that should be sufficient. For frames, there's lots of frames. It really depends what you want to spend. I would say that, you really have to justify a $100 frame. I would stay away from Armatan frames. They are known they're hit and miss with noise problems, like the Chameleon, the Marmot. There's just a running list that are problematic with those. So I would stay away from those. I don't know if I would get a $100 frame. You can get good frames for less than $50. Like a Source One's fine. Kebab has some frames that are going to be a little bit more fragile. So do you want lightweight? Do you want durability? So you really got to make your choices there. But I probably wouldn't buy a $100 frame. So like Flight One has some good frames. Like the Nova is a really good frame. Last I looked, it was $49, reasonable price. It's lightweight, has all the features you need. It's durable, has a star pattern to protect the motors. Flight One continuous issues it's never available. So that's always the trick, just getting something that's obviously available. You can get replacement arms. Look for that as well. Make sure you can get parts. It's not just the frame itself, but can you buy just the arms? How long has it been out? Because you want something that's going to have some staying power, so you can always get the arms. Things like that. For example, if you just want the cheapest frame you can get, that's probably worth the money, is the Martian 2 frame from Banggood. It's always been out there. The arms are always available. It has a good noise profile. It's durable. Nothing wrong with that frame. And I think it's like $25, $30. So it's a good frame. It's probably not a lot, not the lightest, 130, 35 grams. So it's not in the light category, but durability is there. Brandon, Bentley asks, something I've noticed is that the new tiny hexacopter, the default configuration on the F411 is 8x, 2x, D-Shot 300, no bidirectional. Why do you think they are set like that? That's probably just the default. I think that's the default. That's Betaflight all up default. I don't think they're changing it at all. I think if you flash Betaflight and don't adjust anything, I think it's 8K, 2K, everything's 8K now because you can't adjust the gyro chip. I think it's set to 2K default. I don't know if it's D-Shot 300 though. They probably changed that because I think I'd have to double check. I think the default is one shot 125 on Betaflight. So I would just say that they're not making much adjustments to the settings in Betaflight. Brandon also asks, does the hex octo RPM filtering take a heavy toll on the certain processors? Yeah, I mean, you're running, I don't know about a heavy toll, but you're running, more motor output. So instead of 4, you're doubling the amount of RPM notches. So yeah, I would say it would take a little bit more CPU utilization. If you have a octo hex copter or whatever, and you're concerned about that, the debug you want to look at, and I can plug something in here. I'm going to do a video on this soon. The debug you want to look at, it's going to be probably Patreon only, just because it's not out yet. But the Betaflight it actually has a pull request submitted by Steve Evans to increase efficiency in Betaflight for the cycle times. So, but until that's not even merged into the master yet. But until that's merged and all that kind of jazz, if you're worried about performance in any way, let's see if this... Why is that not set there? Why can't I? What do I have on here? Betaflight 4.0. Oh, yay. That's pretty old. See, in that drop-down selector, there's typically a drop-down. But if you, even at the CLI, if you type get debug, the debug you'd want to really look for if you're concerned about is everything getting done is cycle time. If you just wanted to look at tasks, that's really what you'd want to look at to see your CPU utilization for the PID loop, the gyro loop, and make sure that those are running less than 100%. So those are the things. So I guess you have an octo hexo and you're concerned about that. I'd look at tasks first. If you really want to thread the needle, you can look at run the cycle time logging, and that will show you how fast the calculations are getting done. And obviously you want to make sure that getting done in less than the loop rate. So if you're running an 8K loop, that's 125 microseconds. You want to make sure that the calculations are getting done faster than 125 microseconds. If they're not, then you're getting loop time jitter. It's probably not the end of the world. You probably wouldn't even notice it, but technically it's not ideal. So, yeah. All right. What else we got here? I got to keep up. Time to learn them secrets. Yes. Yeah, well, hopefully, Ciati. We'll see. Yeah. All right. We'll get some more. I'm getting way behind. See if I can whack out some of these here. Amory FPV asks, I'm quite new to the FPV, have a Tiny Hawk 2 Freestyle and iFlight Nazgul 2. I was wondering how to tune the PIDs. So, if you want to tune the PIDs, I would say your best resource that I have available is to go to theuavtech.com, and for a Tiny Hawk 2, I'm guessing it doesn't have black box. So I would check out this website, go to tuning, and check out this video right here, this toothpick with the app tuning guide. Don't use black box for that. And we'll talk about just some of the things you would look for and listen for, moreover, to tune that. If you do have black box, you could check out this 2-pack tuning video that gets you a little bit, more precise. I mean, black box is a measuring tool, right? So if you have to eyeball a distance, I could say, from here to the light pole down the street, that's probably 100 feet. But obviously, if I have a tape measure and I measure it, I'll know exactly how far it is. I won't be like, well, it's 100 feet. I think it's 100 feet, but I'm not sure. Yeah, and you kind of look at it a lot, and or the same thing with like tuning. You're like, do I hear that? Do I not? Do I see bounce back? I'm not sure if I see bounce. Where if you just log it, it's like, yeah, I see bounce back. It's right there. I know, and then you just move to the next step. So black box is a tool, gives you a lot of confidence. You know exactly what you're looking at, and yeah, if you have it, it's awesome. Some of the smaller ones don't have it, but on a Tiny Hawk, you shouldn't need to. The tuning window is pretty wide on those toothpicks because they perform really well. The power to weight ratio is right close to like a 5-inch, even though it's almost like a 5-inch scaled down kind of a thing. So I really think it's a little wider of a tuning window. So they're not. You don't have to be that precise with them and get good flight performance. And again, as you're flying it, just for fun, you can always just use the sliders and tweak things up and down a little bit, just to see if things are a little bit better. So that's one of the things that I recommend people do is, go out. If you want to do a tuning session, great. But then if you have the Betaflight app, just as you're going out fun the next couple of weeks, just be like, I'm going to move the slider up a little bit, move the slider down a little bit, and just fly it just for fun and be like, man, do I think that was better or same? If it was kind of the same, just move it up a little bit more, see if it's a little bit better, especially for the P&D balance slider. That one, I'm sorry, the P&D gain slider. That one, as you keep moving it up, your prop wash performance should keep getting better and better. So let me show you which one I'm talking about. Let me just flash this over real quick while I'm looking at some chat or looking at some questions here. And then we're going to get to drone pilots. I guess I should get to this other law quick too. Let me see if I have a couple other questions here. And then flash this all at the same time. Here's what it tells me. All right, I'm just going to go down to the questions that I see that tag my name. Ciati FPV asks, any thoughts on Harold's mention that Blackbird can tell the difference between 1200 and or D-Shot 1200 and 2400 every time in a blind test? Ryan thinks it's related to dithering. Coming from Ryan, it's a pretty powerful statement because he's not a guy that, honestly, most other people that would say that, I would say they're full of it. But coming from Ryan, I'm like, oh, okay, he's usually pretty scientific about stuff. So it's interesting. I would love to see that test. And I guess here's the thing, and I think it's even with Ryan. That's these things, that's the start. There's too many times I just had this conversation. We go with this feel thing, and they're like, oh, well, that's the end. It's not the end. That's the start of, okay, that's interesting. Why? If we think if we repeat that test, blind test over and over again, which I would, I guess as a good peer review, I would say how many times did they do that? Because if they did it just one time, then I wouldn't put that much solace in it. But say they did this blind test like 3 or 4 times in a row, and every time in a blind test he got it right. That's interesting. But did they do that, or was it just one time? And so I don't know. I can ask Ryan about it. Maybe I should. He's in the Betaflight design group that I'm in, so we could get a little chat about that going. But with that, then I would peel back the onion a little bit more with logging to see what the difference is in the motor outputs and anything else. And honestly, if you can't pinpoint a difference there, the correlation between the two is if you can't find where you see any differences in the logging, which is a more precise tool than your feel, just like back to the tape measure thing. Feel is like eyeballing a distance, and somebody can eyeball a distance pretty accurately. And if your tape measure shows that they're accurate about their distance, great. But if they're eyeballing a distance and then you tape measure it and it's actually a different distance, then you're going to go with the tape measure. So that's where I would move on to that step. So if he can, that's interesting, and I would go with that. I guess I don't understand how the dithering concept. People have talked about baud rate, how the higher D shots are a faster baud rate, but we are talking microsecond differences now. And I find it very hard to believe that anybody could tell that difference. So it's not a timing thing for microsecond distances. That would be then getting to, I can feel the difference between 8K and 4K, that kind of a thing. And nobody's talking about that they can feel that up and down, left and right. So, yeah. So, I don't know. Skeptical, I would say, is my feel on it, Ciati. But Ryan's a good guy. I think he's digging into it more. I'm not sure. Ciati says, it certainly sounds like they did the test over and over again. It did sound like that, but I'm not sure. I'd have to ask Ryan. I'm sure he'd be straightforward. I don't think he's trying to. He doesn't have. What's good about Ryan is there's no like hidden agenda. There's so many times where this kind of stuff comes up and there's hidden agendas that, it's like a private, it's closed source firmware, and it's this concept of like, I can do this. Like, no, there's no hidden agenda. It's like, yeah, I wasn't born yesterday. All right, so let's get into, all right, Drone Pilot. I think there's more than likely a different feel with a quad. He just knows is a certain D shot. And that's very true. Like, if in that blind test, was it the same quad and they were changing the D shot setting, or was it two different quads? See, there's too many times that people do tests that they think are like, I had 5 quads. They're all exactly the same components, and I tested these things, and it's like, dude, there is 1,000 gajillion variables. We know that you can buy a flight controller that's the exact same brand, and one can be good and one can be crap. Did you look at all 5 of those quads with black box to make sure the noise performance is all exactly the same and there's no bad gyros in there or anything like that? No, I didn't look at that. Okay, well then your tests are invalid. You need to have a control to know that these things are all the same before you fly them all the same. Did you use the same props? Are they all brand new props? Did you use the same battery? Is it the exact same battery? Or did you use it's the same brand batteries, but were they bought all at the same time? There's so many variables. The best thing to do is use the exact same quad and just change settings. When you really want to get tight on it, you should be using the exact same battery, and obviously making sure to take care of the battery through the testing. Don't on the first couple of flights, don't take it down to 3.2 volts and then charge it back up, because obviously it's going to start to wear the battery harder. And if you're doing a bunch of tests, could influence some stuff more than D shot 1200 to 2400, things like that. So testing's hard to really do real testing, and that's why I think sometimes we fall short. We do hobby grade testing, I guess I would say, not engineering grade, but then we try to make engineering decisions or stuff off of hobby grade testing. You can't do that. My wife's in the medical industry, and if you're in the medical industry at all, you know that they go through a lot of procedures just to get testing, specifically placebo, trials on that, where they're specifically giving people placebo to see if they think are getting better. And sometimes people get better, and it's actually so it's mind over matter kind of a thing. So there's more than meets the eye with a lot of this stuff. So, okay, well, let's skip that 3-inch because I can get back to it. Let's take a look at Drone Pilot. So Drone Pilot has a question here on this log. Let's pull this up. I don't see any of that. I'll hold on the questions here for a while until I take a look at this. It's just too big to drop in the office hour. Okay, so he zipped it up. Let me open this. And do this. Download direct. Are you gonna do it? Come on. download direct. Come on, little buddy. You can do it. Can I click it? Download direct. You're not going to work? Why aren't you downloading direct? Download direct again. I'll keep clicking the button. Maybe that will make a difference. What am I missing here? Maximum file size is 8K. This file is too big to preview. I don't want to preview it. I want to download it. Why aren't you letting me download it? I don't want to preview it. Oh, that's good stuff. I'll click this again. Give me a Dropbox link. Turn this off. It might help. Take a look at this octo here. That's not a good start. So this is this 3-inch octocopter as I'm trying to struggle with this file to download. Why? What's the problem? Yep, I want to go to the website. Okay, I'm there. Dropbox. Why can't I download you? Go, make it happen. Oh man, what the heck? Drone Pilot, I guess, can you maybe email me that file? Oh wait, now I'm getting some love. The site went at least. Download direct. Why do I have to sign in? I don't want to sign in. Create an account. Is that the problem? Sign in. I need to sign in to download it. Oh, 6-digit code. Sorry, everybody. Give me a second. All right, 03 1070. It's not about code. There it goes. There we go. Now I'm getting it downloaded. All right. So this is a iNav log. And I guess Drone Pilot, so this log, so here it is. Here's what we're looking at. Yep, everybody should be able to see that, except it's probably cut off. So I could probably go to that view. There we go. Okay, this black box, I'm interested in the beginning. When I took off, I go into acro mode for a short bit. I flip-flops. This is iNav 3.0. I have the exact same 10-inch quad. Flies okay on iNav 2.6. All right, so you just want I guess a general cursory review of this. Like it sounds like. Let me know, Drone Pilot, if there's any specific issues. Otherwise, I'll just kind of give it a general cursory review, and we'll check out what iNav has. 3.0, it's fancy, it's good stuff. Let's see, let's first go to here. Looks okay so far, just giving it a quick breeze through, nothing jumping out at me. What I would do, Drone Pilot, is go into maybe this is just a, yeah, it looks like you just overshot there on the sticks a little bit. I don't see anything too concerning. What size drone? I guess this is a 10-inch. it sounds like. Get general review. Simply noisy on pitch. Simply noisy on pitch. Yeah. Is this a 10-inch quad? Just like your other one? Yes, 10-inch. Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's a little bit on pitch. What I would do is if you go, oh, it's dead cat. Okay, cool. What I would do is if go into, and I don't have it up and I don't have a iNav board flash, but I can just generally show you in Betaflight. What I would do is go into the CLI, type get debug again. And then in here, you'll see a list of the debugs. They have a trace, I think or a debug called gyro. I think it's just gyro is what they call it. And I would set that. So do set debug underscore, I think they call it underscore mode. And then type gyro. Betaflight doesn't have one that's just gyro. And that should be the raw gyro noise. Then we'd have that available here. You can see we just have gyro roll pitch. This is after the filtering. This is, good enough for the now, but it's always good to have the raw noise just to see how that's looking. So first thing I would do is I always look at the beginning and after of a log to see if there's any, bounces. So it looks like there's nothing at the beginning. It looks more at the end. A lot of times people, bounce rough or whatever at the end. So you want to clip that out before you look at the spectrograph. So you would get to wherever you need to go. And then you can hit the O key to set the output part. And that would clip off the very back side of this. It's actually doing it right now. And then you wouldn't see that in the spectrograph. So that would be that. If you if you need to do that in the beginning, you go to the front and hit the I key, and you can see it did this this little thing right here. Let's go to that view. It did this little clipping here right at the end over here. So it looks like you're running Kukute F7 HD iNav 3.0. It looks like you have a 4K PID loop. So that's 250 microseconds. If you look at the header data, see if I can see header data. I'm not sure that you can in this version. You can see it does Black Box Explorer. This is Betaflight Black Box Explorer. You can see that it does recognize it's an iNav file, but the H key doesn't pull the header data up. I believe I do have, iNav does have its own Black Box Explorer, so you can go and download that iNav Black Box Explorer. Yeah, so I have that download as a separate app. So if you use that in the future, let's see if this produces a different look or result. It's a little older. It's not as Betaflight invests. The people that fly Betaflight use Black Box quite a bit and invest in time to keep, to improve Black Box Explorer. iNav, there's nobody using iNav that's just invested as much time in Black Box Explorer. So you can still import my trace templates into it. Should be able to. Let me do that. So you should be able to hit open, and you can download those on my UAV Tech website. Just go to the Black Box page, and then they're there. I already have them here. I'm going to download, just open them here. So I actually have them under Google Drive, UAV Tech, trace templates. And I would think you would want this 3.4 version just because they're a little older. The Black Box Explorer is a little older. You can see this is a, they call it 3.02, where Betaflight's 3.5. So you can see that they're coming off of like Black Box version 3-ish. So here, now with this downloaded Black Box Explorer with iNav, when you hit the H button, you can actually see the header data. So it's, if you're using iNav, it's well worth to go Google and find, if you have any questions of where that's at, I can always help in the future to get that Black Box Explorer for iNav specifically, like the iNav project has a Black Box Explorer. So looks like your D terms are in the 30s. Let's It's probably a little low for a 10-inch, but let's see what we see. Same things for P. I's, 50s, 60s. Looks like you have the hardware low pass filter is set to off, which is really 250 hertz, so that's appropriate. Looks like there is a low pass filter set at 60 hertz. That's probably a PT1. There's like weird things with the, see how I can like adjust this? That's, should be able to do that. It doesn't actually adjust anything, but like that's just a, you know, these are the little things that like I love Betaflight for, right? Because you don't have that. You can't do that in Betaflight. Let me make sure. Maybe I shouldn't throw stones. Oh, I can't pull up the header data. Dang it. Pull it up with another log here. But like, I've open this one again. Open this. Yeah, see here, you can't adjust these. Like that's how it should be, right? These aren't adjustable factors. But in this other Black Box Explorer, it makes you seem, that would be cool though if you could like adjust it and actually see differences in the log, but it doesn't work like that. What else we got? MPU 6000, it's good. At least that's what it says there. I'd want to confirm that. See what else we see in here. D-Shot 600. We got some rates. What we got down below? It looks like you have a gyro low pass 2 at 120 hertz. So you have one at 60, another at 120. PidSum 500. RPM gyro min hertz 100 gyro. So are you running RPM filters, or are you running the matrix filter, which is the dynamic notch? Yes, I know the gyro being the last time we did the longest stop. Oh, it stopped working when you had gyro recording. Yeah. All right, so let's take a look and see what we see from a log standpoint. I think if you hit G, that will turn off the grid because we don't really need that. Let's see if, and then E for Expo. So Expo is on. So if you press X, that turns Expo on and off. So you don't have these buttons down here on the iNav Explorer, but that's how Betaflight used to be too. All right, so let's look, just go right to the D term trace. And if I run a spectrograph of that, that looks nice and low. I don't see any noise issues there. It looks like you have some noise leaking through here on the pitch axis. That's probably what you were talking about before. So at 86 hertz, that's probably why you have the gyro low pass down that far. What I would recommend trying, so you are running the RPM filters. Yes, that's it. So what I would recommend trying is, instead of moving your low pass filters down, I would move this low pass to 100 and move this up to 200, your other low pass. It doesn't show it here. This is actually the peak motor noise. But you have the second low pass at 120 hertz, as we show on the header data there. That was down here that we were seeing that in the header data right there. And this is basically the field, you know, it says it right here, unknown header fields, so that just populates them all down there, which is nice. And so I would move these low passes up, because you can see that low pass being down that low is not really solving the problem, because low passes suck. Low passes, I say that in tongue-in-cheek. Low passes just can't kill peaks of noise. Low passes are for like low amplitude noise. It's like down here, broad band amplitude noise. But your motor noise or frame resonance, those are all peaking noise. They all look like that with the big peaks. And low pass, that filter type is not designed to attenuate that. It will make that peak. So if you have a peak of noise, let's hit this topic, because I think I saw quick flash in here too. And I want to not just say low passes suck, because it gets mad about that. If you have peaks of noise, like your motor noise, right, that's spiking, which we all have, right, and frame resonances too, right, that's what Chris, I can't think of his last name, Rosser. Chris Rosser talks about a lot, frame resonance. those peaks of noise, if you apply a low pass filter, it's not going to crush that peak. It never will. There's no low pass ever, any of them. And like the Coleman's a low pass, the Biquad's a low pass, the PT1's a low pass, there's Butterworth low pass filters, there's all kinds of low pass filters, but none of them will take that peak and go like that. None of them. They're going to take that peak and go like this and bring it, the whole peak down. But it's not going to actually crush it out, because that's not what they're designed to do. They take a whole area and they'll bring it down. Now, if that peak is up farther in amplitude, it will bring it down a lot. If it's lower in amplitude, it's not going to bring it down much. You'll just bring it like from here, it will move like that. If you would do some testing, like, don't take my word for it. Just go test it yourself. You'll see that it will take a peak and just try to bring it down. To really get a low pass to bring a peak down really far, the peak would need to be at least 2 to 3 times whatever the cutoff of that low pass is. So you can see here at 60 hertz, this peak at 83 hertz is not 2 to 3 times that low pass, so it's not going to crush it out. You can see that. What I would try doing is put a static notch filter right here. So I would put a static notch at 85 hertz, and then you can use the shift key. This might be, hold on guys, I'm on the wrong thing here. You can use the shift key in any of the black box explorers. I'm just holding down shift, and then you can get this marker up there. Not a lot of people know about that. I didn't know about that for like 3 years. You can see here, I would place one, it looks around 85 hertz, and then do the cutoff maybe at maybe 80 hertz. I don't know. They're pretty narrow, maybe 75, just to make sure you get it all. And then you can bring these low passes way up. So you should be able to bring this one up. I would probably take this lower one to like 120 or 100 or 120, depends how aggressive you want to get with it. And then take the low pass 2, which is also a biquad. I would take that up to maybe like double. It would just, whatever this lower one is, I would just double it for the second low pass one. And then you have the RPM filtering up here. The RPM filtering in iNav it's not the same thing as in Betaflight. But it's working. I mean, it's not as it's coming from the telemetry data, as you know. It's a little bit more delayed, but the proof is in the pudding, kind of a thing, right? So you can say like, well, it's not as good as Beta, whatever. Is it working? It's working. You can see up here that I don't see a lot of high frequency noise flopping through here. If by moving these low passes up, you start to see this jump up here a lot, maybe one thing you might want to try is, instead of having the RPM filtering on in iNav, because it's a little bit more delayed because of the telemetry, that's why Betaflight doesn't do it that way, that you want to turn the RPM filtering off and then just use the matrix filter. The matrix filter is it's the dynamic notch. But the way it replicates the notches on all the axes, so if you have it has a peak on roll, it detects that peak is, say, at 125 hertz. It will put a notch on the roll axis at 125 hertz, but also put it on the pitch and the yaw. And then the same thing for the pitch. If it detects a peak at, like, say 250 hertz, I meant to say 225. If it finds one at 250 on the pitch, it will put that also on the roll on the yaw. So you can see you get the 3 axes, and then it replicates in all 3. So it's a 3x3. So they call it the matrix. Makes it sound fancy, but it's not. It has nothing to do with the matrix. But it's just more of a marketing thing. But it works really well by doing that. And so if moving these up, if you still don't see as good performance with the RPM, which I think you will, just something you could test out if you're interested in even doing that, is saying, okay, move this stuff, tweak this in. How does RPM or the matrix filter alone with RPM filter off perform versus with the matrix off and the RPM on? That kind of a thing. Let's see here. Yes, it is. Am I catching up to dead cat frame? Yes, I know the debug mode. Okay, the traces. Running RPM filter. Yes, it is. I don't have the 2.5. Oh, but I don't have that on 2.6. So Drone Pilot's saying that on iNav, let's bring this over here, that on iNav 2.6, this peak only appears after installing 3.0, which is really odd. I think has chopped blade only. Yeah, maybe. I mean, if you had what kind of blades are you using? What kind of blades? What kind of props are you using? Like bi-blades or tri-blades? See if I can get down to there. Electrical engineer, the low pass filters, and I totally understand that. Yep. Yeah, and I understand. Yeah, some of the stuff I'm going through Drone Pilot too it's more for the larger audience. Can you try that? So yeah, if you want to compare those two, if you're having that peak, obviously the best thing to do is solve it mechanically if you can figure it out. If you're using bi-blades on this, yeah, props are bi-blades, composite type, not carbon fiber. One thing you may want to do just for fun is I would always recommend on bigger quads to always get a set of tri-blade HQ props specifically, not other brands, HQ tri-blade props. And maybe you like them, maybe you don't, but on all the bigger quads I've flown, they've performed very well from a noise standpoint. Bi-blades, generally, there's pluses to bi-blades, right? They less amp draw, longer flight times, they're faster, like if you're going for speed. I don't know if that's what you'd really be going for on a 10-inch, but they're a little bit noisier. So yeah, get some tri-blades. Yeah, I do have several tri-blade HQ props. So throw those on, see if that peak's still there if you haven't done that already. I guess so from a filtering standpoint, that's some stuff I would look at. If you wanted to stay on iNav 3.0, it'd be hard to say that the firmware is causing that. I guess I would say if you're thinking it's iNav 3.0, you didn't have that peak and now you do. We're seeing it after all the PID processing, right? So there's lots of stuff that could be going on there. But if you get that gyro scaled or gyro debug, that's the raw noise, then there's not much stuff occurring. There's, it's collecting the data and recording it, and that's it. It's not like running the PID loop and D-term calculations and all this kind of stuff. We're looking at it after all the way downstream. And if you still see that peak there after turning on that debug mode, I would say it's then not anything firmware related. Obviously, the other test you could do is just flash this back to 2.6, and if the peak goes away, even on the D-term stuff, then obviously it is firmware related. I would doubt it that it is. If you think maybe it's the props or clip something, then it's probably that. But that's how you test it to make for sure. Looking at this traces here, it's filtered very well. In the end, I mean, you can see how low amount of D-term noise here you have. You really don't have any. What we were seeing is just it's specific spots. So if I look here, you're getting plenty long flight times. This log is long as heck. Yeah, you're getting it oddly enough when you're at 0 throttle. And it looks like you're doing a move there. Some other spots. There was more spots. Yeah, gosh dang, it's so long. It's hard to keep it focused. So you can see here you're at 0 throttle, right here. And then you're getting it. So if I measure these peak to peak, yeah, so it's I have the measurement off a little bit. You can see you can actually measure these peaks. So if I'm looking down here, if I hit the M marked point and I go to the next peak, you can see that it's a 71 hertz oscillation. So it's going down and up 71 times a second. So you can see if you go peak to peak, that's 71 hertz, or that time frame in between here and milliseconds equates to 71 hertz, and so that's that vibration. So you're looking for that kind of stuff. Yeah, it looks like it's interesting when it's happening. You'd have to see what's going on exactly in that move. It looks like you're doing a rolling backwards. I mean, on the flip side, it's not too troubling. Here, it's when you're doing a flip, a backward flip, or I don't know if you're here without HD. It's hard to tell. I don't know if you're doing a power loop, or coming into, or just doing a flip. Hard to tell. So let's look at the tune itself. In the tune, one thing I'm seeing here is you have a lot of delay. So this is when the sticks are going back to center stick, but you can see there's a ton of wind up here. What I would do, I guess in general, is I don't know if you tried getting into this ballpark with the PIDs, but I have a 10-inch preset. What I typically find with 10 inches, it matters what motor size you have. No power loop, just a flip, like a reverse backward flip. Generally what I'm seeing for a 10-inch, you would want to see your D gains need to be higher than your P gains in general, and that you're really getting them up like P's in the 60s, D's all the way up as the 80s. So that, I said like it's filtered well, you would need it to be filtered well, because you're now going to move these gains up, right? I think with the static notch, that would take care of any of that thing if you can figure that out. Move those low passes up. I would try to look at this like, what would I do if it was my quad? I would try to move those low passes up to the lowest one is no lower than 100 hertz. Then the second can be up at twice that. Then I would the RPM versus the matrix thing, I would leave it on whatever is working, and then I would push these PID gains up. You're typically going to need to be inversed. Typically your P term is higher than your D term, but on a big quad like that, I usually see it go the other way around. It looks around like a 6 or 7 inch. They're about the same, like your D and your P term are about the same. But as you go then larger in quad size, it gets inversed a little bit. It really has to do a lot with the motor size. So if you have, I don't know if you have 28, I don't know if you told me the motor size here. What motor sizes are on this 10-inch? Yeah, it's not really a huge D gain. It just, I wouldn't get hung up on yeah, okay, 3115s. So you may not, so 3115 is definitely the appropriate motor size. I'm glad to hear that. Too many times I hear like 25 something. I'm like, oh God, you need bigger motors, man. You can't run such a heavy prop with such small motors. So 3115 is good. You may not be able to get up to the 80s. I think this was, you can see here, minimum motor size, 9 and 10 inch, 28 something. Consider going 31, so you're right on where you need to be. I would make sure to be 24 kilohertz PWM. I would make sure to move up your motor timing. These two factors will give you maximum braking torque and maximum motor power. And then I would move these up. Maybe try like 60 and 60 to begin with. And then if that works, if you still have any overshooting, then take this up. Just keep moving that D term up a little bit, like a 70s. Since you have a 3100, you might not be getting up to the 80s, but I would say your P's in the 60s and whatnot. That will then start to arrest this issue. What the heck is this INF thing? See this overshooting you're getting here? The more you move those gains up, the more this will, you're going to get this reaction tighter to your sticks, which will then quell some of this overshooting here. You can see this, a lot of this is just, you're hitting the max motor pull here. You can see this is getting up to around 83%. It's not going above that for some reason. But you're really just saturating your motors here, so that's where that big delay is. So we're going to get that signal out a little sooner to help with that as much as we can. So that's what I would do there. Let's see on the roll axis. Expo. This is interesting. Why is that? I don't know if I trust that. Looks like you are overshooting your downloads. Let's open this up in Betaflight. What spot was I in that log? Right around here. So let's go right around here. Trace 4. It cannot be the same spot. Come on. Don't tell me there's something goofed up. No, it's not the same move. Thank God. Must be a couple rolls at the same spot. What I'm looking at here, see how this is showing an undershoot? Let me send this to this. I don't use iNav Black Box Explorer all that much. So I use Betaflight Black Box Explorer all the time. So I know that it's correct, and there's nothing goofy weird with it. I'm trying to find the same exact roll. This looks like there's a little down drop. Oh, Lord. Next Expo. That's Expo. Is this the same move? What is my time? 1:18. Where is the time on this thing? 1:17, 1:18. This is iNav. 1:17. Well, that's interesting. Wow. So this is, it looks like the same move to me. I don't know if I'm missing anything here, but yeah, getting very different results in the two representations of this. So if I turn off Explorer on this, you can see just how different this looks between the two. This one is showing, yeah, I see, that sucks. So iNav Black Box Explorer is not right. So you could say, well, how do you know that? Maybe Betaflight Explorer is not right. So if you look here, the gyro is, the set point here is 736. The gyro is 679. That's the actual readings. And here it's showing that the I term is pushing to move that up. So it's, you know, if the I term is going in the same direction, it's trying to close this gap. So it's not quite doing it. I could lose a little bit more I gain there to close that gap, but they're all pointing in the right direction. You see the gyro is less than the set point. I term is pushing up at the same direction, so it's pushing up that way. Here, it's saying that the gyro is more than the set point, but so this I-term trace should actually be down here if that's the case, but it's not. It's up here. So that's lining up with over here. So there's a bug in, I don't know, I guess you call it a bug. There's an issue with iNav Black Box Explorer that this set point is not being calculated right. That's the one thing with Explorers. Set point is calculated. It's not fed direct. Like this value here is not fed direct from the flight control board and logged. It feeds data, but then it's calculated based on whatever rate type it's set to use, and it's not calculating that right. So I don't know if iNav changes rates or if there's some. I think there's only one rate curve in iNav. I don't think there's multiple rate curves, but yeah. So I guess we'll have to use this to see what's going on here. It looks like you had some overshoot on the pitch axis. Let's see if we see any on roll. Yeah, you're having some overshoot here as well. Looks like when you're bringing your stick down, you're kind of letting it go, and that's where you're getting that bounce back. Try to bring that in, not let it go like that. But either case, you're getting this bounce back here. Again, raising those P and D gains together, like the 60s, and set them both at like 60, mid 60s. That should help with that. If it's need to help it even more, there's in the PIDs tab in iNav, and I apologize, I don't have a Explorer open. There is a setting. It's like 3 settings over, or 3 tabs over in the PIDs tab. It's basically equivalent to iTerm Relax. You can set that cutoff. I think the default's 15. I have to look. It should be you're looking for a number like that's like 10, 15. 20 inch. I think they call it iTerm Relax. I'd have to look. And you want to set that to like 5 for the cutoff for that, and that will help lock the iTerm as well from winding up. So the combination of those two things should address this bounce back, because this is iTerm bounce back. It's because your iTerm is accumulating. You can see that here. Whenever the gyro shape, if you're looking right here, see how the gyro is overshooting this green line? Whenever that shape matches the shape of the previous iTerm, so you can see the iTerm shape and the gyro shape are the exact same shape. When I look between these two, if I can expand this, see how the shape is the same? Just the gyro one's delayed. That means that it's being drugged past. The gyro is being drugged past because it's as this iTerm's wound up here. So it's pulling it past, it's telling it to go down here. And then as it does do that, then the iTerm starts to unwind, and then it will let the quad kind of unwind. And this is all happening really quick. That's that bounce back. So you'll see it looks like that. It's real quick in your HD. It looks really long here, but in reality, it's poof, it's down and up. So we're trying to address that iTerm overshoot, which higher P gains will help with that. You got to bring those D gains up along for the ride, and then also lowering that iTerm Relax. So those are the things I would look at between filters and PIDs. All right, I spent a good amount of time on that. So let's go back to the chat here and see what else we got. All right, zoom up here a little bit and see what we got. I think I was down here. Could you tell me? Sorry, I meant rates. Could you tell a good video or quality show? That's the FPV rates. So Amory FPV says, sorry, I meant rates. Could you tell me a good video or quickly show me, please? Thanks. For what? I forget what we were talking about, Amory. Go back up further in the chat here. What were we talking about? Oh, good video. Yeah. Well, the video, okay. So that was back to the tuning video. Oh, for rates. I mean, just, I don't know. I don't have a video on tuning rates. That's just a feel thing. Just try different rate curves and stuff like that, and choose which one ever you like. It doesn't. I would recommend actual rates in Betaflight if you wanted any input, but that's completely a feel thing. So in Betaflight, go to actual rates. I would set center stick sensitivity to 10, give that a feel, see if you like that, and then set your max rate at whatever you want, and go with that. Other than that, again, it's just that's completely a feel thing. I don't know if there's really a video on how to tune your rates. There might be out there, but to me, it's completely feel dependent. Going down through here. Royal Pancakes FPV. What will happen when there's no more MPU 6000s chips? Is there any other gyro that's just as good still in production? What will you go with when the MPU 6000 is gone? Well, I'll just go with the ICM series of gyros. They're not, again, it's not night and day. It's not like, oh, if I have a flight controller with an ICM chip on it, that it's garbage. No, it's fine. I mean, if you go look at my videos, UAV Tech, MPU versus ICM. The difference is, I did a couple of these, right? Testing gyro MPU versus 2600. And then I also looked at this 2689. This is actually the ICM 2689. Sorry. Go back to this view. This ICM here, the 2689, that's actually TDK's replacement for the MPU 6000. So if you want the head-to-head replacement, as far as TDK, which is the company that makes the gyro chips, they'll say this is, I can't get this anymore. What should I use? They're going to say this one. Now, the impact rating for this is less than the 2602. This one's been in use for a long time, the 2602. The 2602, there's a thing behind it, because honestly, when Raceflight came out, they were saying they were using the 2602. This was like 3 or 4 years ago. So there's this whole marketing. Whenever I don't get it, there's always a marketing thing out there in FPV, which there's other industries, same thing. So they were saying the MCU 2602 was much faster and better than the 6000. So this can run 32 kilohertz sampling, which I don't know that's not necessarily a good thing. But it can, so technically it's fast. I don't know if it's faster. It just gets more samples, right? It's sampling frequency. You can set it to sample quicker. Not that you necessarily need to. That's a whole separate topic in itself. But the overall, I would not put that above the ability for it to not detect as much motor noise and stuff like that. So the MPU 6000 does better in that regard. It being faster, if it's more sensitive, that's not good. We're picking up a ton of vibrations that we don't need to begin with. The more of that you read, the more of it you need to filter out. And that's not a good thing, because there's a lot of delay in filtering. So to say, okay, it's faster, and then you get a ton of more noise with that you now have to filter out and lag the entire signal, that's not good. So, so bottom line, there was a lot of marketing stuff behind this 2602. There's this lower impact rating. I have seen people say that, these gyros aren't as good, that there's a higher failure rate, but I have not, to me, that's all hearsay. I've not really noticed that. I've not had one fail on me. And in this testing, you can see this 2689 outperforms the 2602 just by a little bit. And the MPU 6000 outperforms both of them, again, just by a little bit. So I wouldn't, again, say that, if you really like a certain feature on a flight control board, that a feature set that, is just really down your alley, has a Vector OSD or the Flight 1 boards. There's nothing wrong with the Flight 1 boards. They use the 2602. I wouldn't say that their lack of MPU 6000 is a disqualifier. But if you have a choice, the MPU 6000 is a solid bet. I've never seen an MPU 6000 fail easier than an ICM chip. The ICM chips are like on these dual flight controller boards where they'll have both. The MPU 6000 always does a little bit better than the ICM. And it's on the same exact flight controller board. And I've seen where there's electrical issues on the flight controller board, Lux S7, the ICM chip on it really reads it. The MPU 6000 still saw the electrical issues, but not as much. So it's like the MPU chip's just a little bit more durable, like a little bit more resistant to electrical interference. Not that the Lux S7 was okay either way, either chip. It still saw the electrical issues coming through, but again, the MPU is just a little bit better. So I know some people are testing out some other gyro chips that are coming down the market. So we'll see. Again, Royal Pancakes asks, I got my RPM slider set to 2.0. The quad motors are super cool. Can I turn off the low pass filters? Absolutely. So up is not the same as off. That was a big thing when we were working on this low pass filters. I wanted the low pass the sliders that when you move them up, I would love it to have one more notch beyond 2.0 where it would just turn off these gyro low pass filters altogether. So this is Betaflight 4.0, so I don't have the sliders up here, but it's the same. Imagine there's sliders here. Again, I'm horrible with this. Here we go, that way. I don't have the sliders up here. So imagine there's sliders up here. Just go in and just toggle off all the low pass filters only on the gyro, not on the D-term. You can never turn these off. You can turn maybe one off if you really want to push it, but never both. You need them on the D-term for other reasons other than just filtering. There's other stuff that goes on with the D-term. So yeah, turn them off. I have 2 videos on that. They're called like Betaflight filter strategy. So if you just search UAV Tech Betaflight filter strategy, check that out. And Brian White consequently has run some tests that shows the more filtering you put on the gyro, you can actually get a low frequency vibration around 40 to 60 hertz ish. I need to do some testing on that myself, but it's something he's kind of just seeing on some of his quads that's not what you would think you would get. So it's almost like it's translating that high frequency stuff down to low frequency. I need some other testing on it. I just did a post for his video on PID Toolbox. So if I go to YouTube here, I can show it. So you go check out this video from Brian White. It's a really good video. Everybody should look at it. Here, let me pull this up so I can show you which one I'm talking about. If I go to, yeah, this one, PID Toolbox Q&A 2.0. So if you go to my channel and go to the community tab, I'll paste this in the Discord too, or paste this in the chat. Just click on this. So this video, he shows it. It's probably later in the video. See if I can scrub it and see where it is.
Okay, so you can't go forever.
Yeah. So he does a lot. This is a really good video if you're into this kind of stuff. If you just, I want to just fly, which then probably wouldn't be on this. He gets into it right here. So around 20-minute count 23, right around there, he starts talking about his observations there with low pass filters on the gyro. It doesn't. I don't know that he nor I understand why that scenario would occur. So some more testing is needed, but it's definitely worth taking a look at. I just pasted that in the chat. Let me get a couple more of these chats on here, and then I'm going to go back to the Discord because I think I saw somebody else upload a log. We'll take a look at that and go from there. Royal Pancakes again. Does the 2010 iFlight Twin G have issues with the gyro fusion? I rarely crash, and I don't soft mount when I do. It's been twitchy since day one. What do you guys think? So Royal Pancakes, what I would do is record. There's a dual gyro scaled debug mode, I would record that, and that will record the signal from both gyros. It will do roll pitch on one gyro and then roll pitch on the other gyro, and see if there's a difference between the two. Maybe one of the gyros is, if it's twitchy, maybe it's just one of them, because obviously if you have one gyro that's twitchy or not ideal, and then you have another one that's really good, and then you average them together, because that's what sensor fusion is doing, that actually makes the good one worse, right? Because you're bringing in bad data. So you can just, instead of doing the sensor fusion, just pick one. If you don't want to do the logging thing, just instead of in Betaflight Explorer or Betaflight Configurator, you can just, in the configuration tab here, you'll see this, yours will say both first and second. Just set this to first, go fly it, see if it's better or worse. Then set it to second, go fly it, see if it's better or worse. And obviously first is just using one gyro, second's just using the other gyro, both is fusioning them together. So that's how you can do it if you don't want to do the logging. So check that out. If that does use, I believe the iFlight does use the 2689, last I checked. And I have those boards. When I did testing on those, I did quite a bit. I didn't notice any issues. But honestly, I'm not flying them in a rig on a day-to-day and crashing it and stuff. It seems like you're saying you're not crashing too much. So that's what I would do. Personally, I would do the logging thing, but you could do the first, second thing there as well and see if there's any issues with the gyros. Open to new YouTube tab. Type in Betaflight Pids Explained in the search box, and Betaflight Pids for Dummies. That's UAT text has been. Yeah. So that's another comment. Yeah, so Drone Pilot in the chat was saying if you want to tune your rates, I guess Joshua Bardwell did a Rotor Riot video with rates tuning, so search that up. Quad Mode FPV asks, hello UAV Tech from Toronto. Hey, not too far away. How you doing? Is it possible to process black box data with modified PIDs and see the effects? There's no utility to do that I'm aware of. Yes. Not yes to theoretically ish, but not really, because you don't have the feedback loop part. So when you change your PIDs, that's changing what goes to the motors. So if you have this is probably why the utility is not available. I mean, you could do it and you could see the PID changes, but you're not gonna get the feedback loop of what the gyro has changed to. Oh, I have a appreciate the super chat. Demo, I guess is how you say it. Sorry if I butchered that a little bit. There was no question there, but did have a super chat. I just noticed there. I should keep that tab on here. But if you have the post-processed data, if you have the gyro, being recorded in black box, you could obviously change the PID gains based on that, and then you could see like the PID lines change. The problem is that would have a real effect on what the motor would output, so that next sample would change. So you can't, there's nothing to do that, because to get what you're talking about, you would have to have an accurate model of your specific quad, so that the computer knew, like, okay, if I change the P gain, that would mean that I'd run it through all this very complicated math, and it would make the quad then react this way. And that's the missing part. So no, there's no software to do that. It's not saying it's not possible, but I am not aware of any modeling of a quad that's super accurate. I think the closest thing is the guys that are running sims for some AI, based quad control. They have a simulator or a gym. That's probably the closest thing. If you think about it, like another close thing is the simulators in these games, like Velocidrone and all that kind of stuff, but that's not code they're going to share with anybody. It's proprietary. It's the core. That's the physics of their game. they're not going to send it to you, and that's not very accurate. Not accurate enough to actually use to tune. If you ever flown a sim, I mean, they're okay, but they're not. I wouldn't say they're not accurate enough to tune. You'll never get a sim. I don't know of any sim that shows you prop wash. That would be an interesting sim. I don't know if, like, click on the prop wash button. So yeah, unfortunately not. All right. Jack asks, what does it mean when you have to do a full front flip, but there's bounce back resulting from the roll axis, like black box? Yeah. There's PIDs, the gyro and PID loop active on the roll axis despite only pitch. Yeah, moving forward. So, Jack, what you're mostly seeing there, see if I can describe this. Which way is the best way to describe this? Typically what the problem is with that occurring, and see, you can probably see it here. Yeah, this is close enough. So see how in this log, again, do this. See how in this log he's doing a roll, but you see all this pitch activity. Why? And a little bit of yaw. It's because of the motors going up and down. You're going to see the most amount of pitch activity when you're doing it. So if you're doing a roll on, what's specifically, what were you asking? You're doing a front flip. All right, so you're doing a little different. You were doing a front flip. Let's see, he has some of those. Here. So this is a back flip. Imagine you're just doing a front one. But you see all this activity on the pitch. You're going to see it mostly when you start to get down into this area where the motors are spiking, and you'll see it a ton if these motors saturate. Basically, they get these are the commands to the motors. So if this goes up to 100% command, that means the motor's not keeping up, and then you'll see the most cross-axis influence out of the two. The only way to make that better, there's two ways. The first way is mechanically. If you start to see motor saturation, get more powerful motors or drop the quad weight. And it's not so much the quad weight, it's the quad moment of inertia. We always talk about weight. So you can either, drop the quad weight in general, or you can bring things in tighter. I don't know if you have an antenna farther out, or I don't know, whatever you can do to get that weight closer to the center, that will drop your moment of inertia. Will make almost like your motor's more powerful. Or if the other thing that you could be having motor saturation is your props are too heavy. You could get lighter props, or you can get bigger motors. So there's two things that can cause saturation. Either the moment of inertia is too much for it to keep up, or the props are too heavy compared to how powerful the motors are. So you can, for either one, you can get more powerful motors or make some other physical adjustments. That's the best way to solve it. The other way to solve it is to adjust your PID gains to compensate for that. Now this log is that INAV one, so I can bring up the thing here. So this is the INAV Explorer, so I can bring this up. So the PIDs are, summed, literally summed together. The P term, the I term, the D term are summed up to the PID sum. So as you adjust, but they do different things, right? So as you make certain gains higher than others, that means they're going to control more of that sum that's going to the PID sum, that when you're just adding them together. Well, the same thing happens across the axes as well. So your higher your pitch axis gains are in relation to your roll axis gains, means the more control the pitch axis is going to have on the mixer than the roll axis. So if you're getting a lot of cross-axis wobble, what you could do here is have these roll axis PIDs higher than the pitch axis PIDs, and that will give more influence for the controller to keep this stabilized. Now, it's going to be a trade-off. So it's going to trade off pitch authority, because yaw is, or It's going to trade off pitch authority because the roll authority is going to take precedence. But that will help you get rid of that cross axis wobble. So move up whatever axis is having the wobble, move those gains up, all of them, higher. Like make them all 10 points higher than the other axis. Or the controlling axis that you're doing the move on, you can make those lower too. It's all ratios between the two things. So that's how you can make that. I do that a lot for yaw. So a lot of times on big quads, right, you'll see that that's not what I want to hit. A lot of times on big quads, you'll see when you'll do like a forward flip or roll, you'll see the yaw bounce, right? And you don't want that yaw to bounce. So what we'll do in that scenario is we'll come into the, why isn't this not working now? Oh, it's up already. You come into the gains here and you'll just crank these yaw gains up. Like on a 10-inch quad, there's a lot of times, the biggest where I see it the most is when we're tuning out like the thick and the Shendrone's thick or the Shendrone's Sicario. When I'm tuning those out, those have like a really big camera on them, right? And that camera really has a tendency, if it makes all kinds of weird because it's this huge camera, it's sticking out, it's up high, so it's way off balance from the center of gravity. Like the center of rotation and the center of gravity are pretty far apart on these big quads, which is just not ideal at all. But it is what it is. I mean, you have this big camera, it's a controlling weight. So you'll get a lot of yaw bounce. So what we'll do on those is crank these yaw PID gains up to like 100 and 100, or even 150, 150. The max they can go is 200. I've not gotten up anything more than I think 150, 150. But you can see in that would address that yaw bounce after doing a flip or a roll by doing it that way. The ideal scenario, again, would be bigger motors or address the mechanical issue, but that's not always, it's easier for somebody to say on a live stream. It's not so easy to do all the time. All right. Last chat here, and then I'm going to go back because it's a couple minutes after, and I want to look at that other log that was uploaded by Patreon there. Any thoughts? Sayati asks, any thoughts on how to best balance ramp up power with PID gains? My smoothest, my smooth brained understanding is that ramp up power just power and PIDs adjust timing, right? Yes. Increasing PID gains does not make your motors more powerful, right? They can't do that. It adjusts when, I haven't found a really good way to articulate this yet. It adjusts at what given time. It adjusts how fast the signal goes up in percentage. That's what increasing PID gains does. So if you have a low P gain, it would take a while for a fixed gyro movement or fixed amount of PID error. Let's go back to this screen. A fixed amount of PID error would make your P gain maybe go up to like 50%. Well, as you increase the P gain, that same fixed amount of gyro error, if you have a higher P gain, double your P gain, then that same amount of gyro error will make the P gain send a 100% signal instead of 50%. So it's a timing thing. As this is ramping up in PID error, the P gain will start to ramp up its signal from like 0 to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100%. Well, if you keep that same amount of PID error gain and you have a higher P gain, that means it will go from 10, 20, 30, 40 up to 100%. We'll just do that faster. So it's really a timing. As you increase gains, you're increasing the timing of when you're making the timing faster of it ramping up to 100% for any of the gains. And it's not necessarily all the way up to 100%. It's ramping up to whatever percentage it needs to get to it. You're making that happen faster. You're making it push faster. Push. A lot of people say, well, push harder. It's not really harder. It's just faster. So I don't know if that's a great way to articulate it, but that's the best I've come up with so far. where ramp up power does change motor properties a little bit. I'm not sure how much in flight, but a little bit. It's especially for startup. Okay, what I'm going to do here now, we are an hour and a half into it. I do want to get back to this, checking out this log here from Resix. So let's take a look at this. So, and we'll end with that here in a little bit. Resix, this is my latest log I took. Let me put this on here. Latest log I took is, go to here. You don't need to see me. I have an issue with the gyro, but it turns out that it could be an electrical noise from before, which seems to be fixed. Running the setup is based on a 5-inch freestyle tune from Mark's website. That's me. If anyone could help me with this, I'd be blessed. All right, well, I'll help you. Let's download this and see what we see. So I guess you had an electrical issue. Resix, am I saying that right? Let's see what else. Fast oscillations. All right, let's see what this log says. I'll bring this over here. But I also get this clicking sound when the motor's metallic. All right. Also, that tune is giving me fast oscillations when upping the throttle, but I also get this clicking sound, like metal on metal clicking, but the motors are not hot, just slightly warm. Lukewarm would be described. Again, thanks for the help. Okay, so lukewarm, but if your motors are lukewarm, that's not warm. You know, hot motors are, you'll know when you have hot motors. They're hot. Like you can't touch the motor or you can't hold on to it. That's hot. The quad weight is 630 grams, 650, so it's not light, but it's not heavy either. Depends on the battery size. Yep. So HQ props, so that's good. Those are tried and true, sturdy. BL Heli 32, 4-in-1, 60 amp ESC, STM gyro, MPU 6000. All right. I would assume you have a cap on this as well, a capacitor on the battery lead. So let's see what we see here. It's only one flight. That's not a good. That's not a good sign, that, whatever that is. Yeah. Oh no. Speedy BV2. Don't crush my dreams. Yeah, it doesn't look good there on the pitch axis. Let's see what's going on there. So here's a sign of an electrical issue. There's a couple signs here that you have an electrical issue. Right here. This is not good. And how do you know? How do I know that? So you have, if you go and you look at this axis, you have some on trace setup 0 here. Make sure I can see. Everybody can see this. Yep. You are at 0 throttle. You can see it right here. And you're just doing a backflip. In your backflip, you can see this little gyro jerk. That's not good. That's not a big one though. That's just a little one. But this, you shouldn't have this noise right there like that. If you can look at this and spread this out a little bit, you can see this gyro is just really jumping up and down, and you don't even have any throttle on. The reason it's jumping up and down, we don't have any throttle going on, but if you look at the motor traces, come in here and click on motor, you can see your motors, as these motors are ramping up to get into that move or come out of the move, it's making these gyro traces go crazy. Typically that's a sign of an electrical issue. So if you don't have a capacitor, I would definitely look to do that and see if that helps at all. I would go from there. Let's see some other stuff on here. Just look a little bit more broader on that. And you can see here, these ramp ups are really just kind of crazy. See how this D term is really freaking out? So it looks like the pitch axis, just this itself, it's almost a little bit better to see, but this, it's just signs of an electrical issue. The gyro going from 2088 degrees per second to then 600 degrees per second and then back up to 2000. Obviously the quad's not physically moving that quickly, and that it's doing that within 3 milliseconds. This is not possible. So it's not a motion thing. It could just be some noise, like a vibration that's occurring that fast. But generally when you see that on the ramp up and ramp down, that's usually an electrical problem. Couple that with, you're seeing some of this stuff here as you're going up in throttle. That's not good. With an MPU 6000, that's surprising. Yeah. So I would look at your capacitor. I've seen stuff like this with, somebody having I was sent a 5-inch quad 6S, and it had a capacitor on it, had electrical issues like this. And here those capacitor leads are, hard, they're firm, it's like the little things that come out of the capacitor. They were, and I just wired them to the leads as well. They had them wired to the leads, and they looked like they were on there well, but what I did is I melted the solder, reflowed it, and apparently they were loose, or it was a bad joint or something like that, and they were, not making good contact, or I don't know what was going on. All I know is I reflowed the joints and the electrical issues went away. So if you have a capacitor on there, I think it was fine. I think it kind of broke free or loose or whatever, and that was causing connections, disconnections. I don't know what was the issue. All I know is I reflowed those joints. So I would try that. Take a look at your capacitor connection, see if that's an issue. If you are, I don't know what ESC you're using, but it could be producing quite a bit of electrical noise, depending on which ESC I see. It's just a BLE ESC. So that could make a difference, depending on, if that's like a Racer Star ESC, which I doubt it is. But if it's, sometimes ESCs can go bad and produce a lot of things. Don't tell me it's my hope for the Speedy Bee, because it looks like that's this flight controller that you're using. So I haven't done the testing on this, but we'll need to do that. I haven't heard of any issues with it, but it could be the flight controller. I hope not. So I would look into those things. That I would just really going to need to tackle those electrical issues. I would look at the cap, and then if you have another flight controller, I would throw another flight controller on and see if it fixes this. But it looks like to me it's an electrical issue. Okay, everybody. Well, sounds good. We are 15 minutes over. Thanks for everybody coming out today. I hope you found this somewhat useful as a live stream, and we'll go from there. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I don't even know where my live stream thing is here. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. And if I didn't get to your questions, I apologize. If you're a Patreon, I'm always available on the Discord, on the Patreon channel. So if you've had a question on your Patreon and I didn't get to it, throw it up there. If not, we'll have another, a live stream here. I'm trying to do one once a month at least. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, everybody. I hope this did help.